The Bombers far too good for the Saints.
Kick it.
And isn't he an exciting player?
Off the left, right to the goal line. Wanganui.
And through.
Carries the pack for a goal. What a player, Derek Kickett.
They go in towards a full forward line, StKilda. Low in front.
And more trouble here for StKilda. Stuart Lowe, look at him grab that left shoulder. And I'll check with Scott Palmer, the latest on that shortly. Now have a look at this mark. Probably never heard Don Scott restricted to one word like that. Oh, but he was on that particular occasion. Collingwood and Richmond, well, Peter Dacos returned on a charge of tripping and Kickett on a striking charge, both against Essendon, namely Mercury and Somerville. Now we'll check the interstate headlines, see what's making news around the country today. Well, over in the Sunday Times, they're not too concerned about the injury plight of Guy McKenna. They believe that perhaps he will miss only 1 week with that groin problem. In Adelaide, the Sunday Mail, well, that sums it up. Pain but no gain as the Crows cop an absolute thumping yesterday. And locally, in the Sunday Herald Sun, and again, a treat, haven't you, Scott?
Big news today, Sandy.
Well, it's like a medical report as far as the state team is concerned. Now, firstly, is Tony Lockett going to play?
He withdrew from the side this morning. He turned up at the MCG and told them that he was very ill. He'll have blood tests tomorrow for glandular fever. He's gone straight home to bed, will not play for Victoria. Quite a shock for the selectors down there this morning. Might be quite a shock for Saints fans too. What about Lowe? Lowe's out with a AC joint in the shoulder. Brown's out with abdominal muscles. Salmon is okay, which is good news because he'll probably play full forward now. There's a big doubt over Mick McGuan, who's got some groin problems. We'll probably tell them tomorrow how he's pulled up. But it wasn't
not going to leave anyone to play.
No, they're going to meet at 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon at the MCG to have a look at the Swans game and see who's left, Sandy.
What about Barry Mitchell?
Well, Barry Mitchell, they're going to watch him. They're hoping he can get 30-odd kicks against the Lions up there in Sydney today. But
isn't there some cloud hanging over?
Well, of course, it's a very funny one, the fact that he is a suspended player, playing because he's taken out an injunction against the AFL, but the AFL have seen in their wisdom giving him permission to play. So if he's picked...
I believe that Mr. State Football, it was not a happy camper this morning.
Is bluing like the proverbial down there at the MCG over the possibility that the Adelaide team may play Tony McGuinness.
Who didn't play
yesterday because of hamstring. He feels that there's a little plot to get him into that State of Origin team, and he's demanding AFL action. He said, we can't do it. If a player pulls out on Saturday, he can't play on the State of Origin match. He said, I just believe that the South Australians are going to do this. He's talking to team managers and talking to the AFL. He said, this can't happen.
He does get a bit animated over state football, doesn't he?
He was fuming today.
Well, apparently it can't happen anyway, can it?
Well, under Victorian laws it can't. Right. But Kevin Sheehan, the team manager, said, I'm not too sure how it stands with South Australia. They get away with a bit over there.
Now, don't be too harsh on them. Heck. Peter McKenna, you know that famous singer?
Yes.
I believe has been doing some secret work out at Victoria Park.
Yes, secretly trialling Sav Rocker down at the Victoria Park.
In singing? No,
in taking the hook out of the kick. And Collingwood let it slip this morning, Sandy, when I was talking to them. They weren't going to say anything, but McKenna's been teaching Sav how to kick the ball well, kick six today, and they believe he's right on target to become a real goal sneak down at Victoria Park.
Very Rocker. Just in closing, we'll have the family section. Mr. and Mrs. Langford?
Langford's got a cracked rib by all accounts too, but he turned up for medical inspection today. Eleanor, a 9.5-pound baby boy, William Jamison, and is resting well.
Little Billy Langford. Excellent. Any further news?
Well, Chris Grant could get in the side today. Had to leave the big Footscray ball early last night. A little bit of a stomach upset. He had to take a drug test at Waverley. He had to have 4 bottles of soft drink and a couple of beers to sort of put it in the bottle. And had to get home early, but he'll be right if he's ever called upon to play for Victoria.
You're as subtle as a stepmother's kiss, aren't you? We'll take a break. Keep punching, Scotty. We'll be back with the boys shortly. Bob, welcome, and you've been busy with the calculator for those with a bit of a trivia in their veins.
Yes, Sandy, at half-time yesterday, the 5 leading teams, their scores were Footscray 10-4, Essendon 10-7, Carlton 10-7, Collingwood 10-8, and Hawthorn 10-7. So Well, 3 points, the leading
amazing.
team.
Absolutely
It is.
amazing.
Well, I
Bob.
thought it was too, Ron. It's just like having 3 umpires.
Ronald, good morning.
Well, I'd like to make a little comment on the South Australian attitude towards McGuinness. If they're keen enough to put their best team in, because some players are unable to play on one Saturday, could play on the Tuesday, and could play on the Saturday. That is physically possible. So if McGuinness is in that category, good on South Australia for being keen enough to want to win the match. So I think Teddy Whitten is wrong on this one if he's saying they shouldn't be able to do it. It is not an Australian Football League ruling that has anything to do with this match. This is Victoria wanting to put on their best. And if we have this attitude where, hey, if you can't play Saturday, you can't play on the Tuesday, you can't play next Saturday, which I think is rubbish, and it's only put there to stop skullduggery and have some sort of a semblance of a chance. You know, I think
We appear to be having quite a bit
Shouldn't
of
you keep this in
skullduggery here in
conference,
Victoria,
Ron, instead of
don't
voicing
we?
your opinion here?
Why is that?
Well, I mean, you're selectors, you should keep it in club.
I don't think it's selectors matter. I think it's to do with all of football, this sort of thing.
Would you say it's a fair advantage with having Graham Corns as the coach of the Crows and South
I don't
Australia
think
to
it's got-
allow one of his players to do it?
I don't think it's got anything to do... Oh, yes, it would be. Yes, but it's really got nothing to do with the principle of what I'm talking about. If they're keen enough, good on them, I reckon.
All right, we'll just wait and see. Now that you gentlemen have all introduced yourselves so marvellously well, Peter McKenna. Now, I must ask you, Pete, I listened to you and Dennis on Friday night, and you were both very, very critical of the umpiring.
Yes, well, the first thing I want to say, and I'll say it quickly, is where's Bruce? He owes me money, seeing I backed Hawthorn again to beat Geelong. I've beaten him again. Where is he?
The state.
And secondly, well, I do want to say something about umpiring. We're not here to umpire bash, but
Well,
I've seen...
Stop talking.
Now, hang on. 2 weeks in a row. Now, I know Wayne Schimmelbusch was dying to say something 2 weeks ago, North Melbourne and StKilda. There are far too many wrong decisions being made, and I think the game is being far too over-umpired at the moment. On Friday night, there were 78 free kicks given, which is absolutely ridiculous, and a lot of them were very, very wrong. And it's time we thought about ex-league footballers taking up umpiring, and I mean that because once
Peter,
you've been out in the hurly-burly of the contest,
It's like a
you know what's a
75
real
record,
free
isn't it?
kick.
And your umpires today, umpires Scott and McKenna.
Yeah, and, no, one exception, I would never have Don Scott as an umpire.
Umpire Kelvin Moore then. Kel, you saw the Maggies yesterday.
I did, yes, and it's a little wonder that the AFL want to move the Collingwood games to the MCG when possible, because there was 31,000 people there, and it was just chaotic trying to get in and out of the place. And whilst the Collingwood people love their little home ground, it's certainly not fair on the opposition who may want to go and have a look.
Timothy, Adelaide and Footscray, that's a disappointing performance by the Crows.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. I watched Adelaide play last Friday night, and they were pretty good last Friday night, but yesterday they were very disappointing. But Footscray seemed to find it a bit of form. They'd lost a couple of close games, but I'm very impressed with the young players. Young Frost is going to be a very good player, and Cretty is a good player too, and they've got a very bright future, Footscray.
They were hoping for a cat attack down at Cardinia Park yesterday. I believe this morning there was one at Sorrento.
Yes, there was one in
Hold
Sorrento.
up your hands, you're an extraordinary man.
Fang, my son's cat, attacked me. I had to put him inside. Have you ever tried to catch a cat by the tail and then be violently attacked?
Looked like it bled all over his strides too.
It did, I could
Look at the colour on
tell.
him.
He scratched me everywhere. But
Why
he's
didn't
under
you
the
just let
house.
it
I just
go?
left him under the house.
Why not just leave him?
Well, I suppose I could have too, but he
He's a
had to
bully,
be in the
that's
house.
why.
I had to go back in the house.
All right, and everything's fine at the TAB, is it?
It is, yes.
Marvellous. All right, let's talk more football now, because Ben Allen is our special guest from Hawthorn. Ben, well...
Kilda and Essendon, I thought it'd be more of a contest, and St Kilda really never slipped it into overdrive. They seemed to be in second and couldn't get it into top. But one man who did play well, he didn't have an opponent all day, which is really quite remarkable. Dean Wallace, he can do some very good things, but then he undoes himself a little bit with something that he'll do which is just out of the flow of play. But yesterday he kept himself in check, and I thought he played a terrific game. Darren Buick played up the ground and picked up a lot of kicks, but Derek Kickett, they talk about Gary Ablett's ability. I have seen this man do some incredible things. He kicked a magnificent goal, a mark, and a couple of years ago in one quarter at the MCG he took them apart. He has got some unbelievable ability. He's also bringing his teammates into the play. He set up a couple of goals and he also chased pretty hard, which I haven't seen him do before.
Don, you mentioned Wallace didn't have an opponent all day. Is that fairly ordinary coaching or something from the opposition?
Well, I was going to, yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I watched them a couple of years ago and Chitty did exactly the same thing when Lockett was on fire down at Moorabbin. He roamed, it was Ezard and Werner, I think, that day, wasn't it, Tim? They were blocking up and Danaher was at full back. Yesterday he did the same thing, but a little bit different, had Wallace just propping in front. Wallace didn't have an opponent. Now, I don't know who the loose man up the ground was because Nathan Burke was picking up a lot of kicks, as was Harvey. McAdam was also loose at one stage, and I thought Davenport might have been the loose man, but they were predictable in what they were doing, St Kilda. They were obviously getting the ball a lot around midfield, but hitting it long down into the forward line, and Wallace was by himself. Also, it was a courageous effort by Wallace because with Lockett or Lowe was down there on occasions, he had to stand his ground on a couple of occasions and showed a lot of courage and composure.
Last week I watched St Kilda and I thought that they layerised a little bit with the ball overuse. They weren't that direct in their play. How did you find them yesterday?
Well, on a couple of occasions, I don't suppose they were direct, Tim, but maybe they were forced to go that way because they really didn't have a focal point up forward. Lowe started beside Lowe at Lockett. Lowe started beside Lockett in the forward pocket. They moved them around. Allen was at full forward. Lockett was up the ground on occasions, so they really didn't have much to aim for.
Scotty, could it be that the Saints just aren't used to being up every week? Because every match in today's jungle, you've really got to be up for, otherwise you're in grave danger of losing it.
Well, that's true. It is true, but also they were lucky to get out of it against North Melbourne the week before, so I don't think they're going as well, Ron. And they really do need somebody, well, all teams need someone to fire up forward, and they really didn't have a forward up, you know, who was firing yesterday.
Yeah, well, Fletcher's been dominating the centre for them. Was he in...
Well, I think he was taken off the bench, if I can remember. He was taken onto the bench at one stage during the game, but he wasn't a bad player. You know, he wasn't a bad player. He was all right, but not a good player.
All right, gentlemen, let's turn our attention now to Footscray in Adelaide. Tim, you were there. How did you go with your Stuart Lowe, who has 15 votes, and Darren Jarman is on 14. If you want a good read, there is a book out called Just...
And Gastev over the top. Great to see number 15 underneath there again.
Well, the match-winning goal for Hawthorn came from this courageous marquee, as usual, from Tony Hall.
Here's a player that just oozes talent, and young Paul Brown up and away and doesn't mess around. Straight off with it, great.
And talking about talent, have a look at this guy, Chris Grant. That is a top-class mark in a pack.
Yes, and Paul Roos enjoys a ride on Jimmy Stein's back, but feeling not mutual by the look of Jimmy there.
Now, one of the most underrated players in the competition, Andrew Obbs, the terrific mark, again in a pack situation.
And out we go. Great athleticism to Glenn Jakovic, top mark.
Now, courage needed here. Hocking, back with the flight. Look at that. Hugs it to his chest.
I might throw to Scotty. Give it to us, Scotty. Come on. Ooh, what a top grab.
Now, we've sung the praises of Chris Grant again. Look at this. He really is a promising young player.
Yes, and screams of joy went through the Jack Ryder stand here as Gary Pert thrills all the supporters at Collingwood. Top grab on a top game.
The magical Peter Dacos. Have a look at this. Only champions continually do this, time and time again. One-handed mark.
And we see Earl Spalding, important player, and a fine, solid one-grab mark out on the wing. And, well, there were some great marks there, Pete. What do you reckon?
That's the best lot of marks we've seen for weeks. And, well, I think we were unanimous, Cal, on Nicky Winmar. And you took plenty of marks standing on my shoulders. I'll let you talk about it.
Thanks, mate. I certainly did. And we'll have another look at it.
I thought you'd agree.
An important mark, Eggs. It could have been a sure goal for Essendon, but he just extracts something extra out of those Pumas and pulls in the top mark. No tree stump needed there, Bobby.
All right, thank you, Kel. Yes, and he has joined those players, Roos, Wanganeen, Caverton, Darren Jarman, Todd Ridley, and now Nicky Winmar in round 16. And so we come to goal of the week now with Tim and Don.
Goal, Steve McLuckley, a much improved player.
And Gary Ablett, who's been out of form, getting this one across and a snap onto his right foot.
And Gary, Chris Sullivan, this is something his father couldn't do. Tony, he's a good little player. A lot of speed and a lot of potential. It's a horrible word, potential, though.
And Darren Cuthbertson on the bounce. So the difficulty in kicking this after you've been running is to steady yourself and to have the poise. And that's a good long goal from Cuthbertson.
This man was terrific yesterday. The way he attacked the ball, he fed it off a couple of times in this situation to guys running past, but he decided to do it himself. He really didn't look at the goal, but boy, he's a terrific player. So much talent. Derek Kickett.
There's a bit of play here by Rocco, the big fellow, showing a lot of manoeuvrability for someone so big and snapping that one back over his shoulder.
Rowan Welsh had a day out a couple of weeks ago, taking some big marks in the forward pocket, but here he is now, showing he can kick them on the run, left foot.
Don?
Well, Tim, I didn't think there was much question about that. What do you think about your teammate, Derek Kickett?
As well, he's an absolute superstar, Derek Kickett, and that goal yesterday was as exciting as I think I've seen him kick in the past, that one.
Terrific. He did it a couple of weeks ago. Last week it was against, how did they play at the MCG? I forget who it was, but he did. And there were two magnificent goals he kicked that day, and this is no exception. Terrific stuff.
Yes, very exciting player to watch, and let's have a look at the list. He joins Dale Kickett of StKilda, who won it in round 11, Dean Kemp in 12, David Mensch in 13, Michael Gale 14, and Mr Kickett making it back-to-back victories in goal of the week, round 15 and 16. On the subject of goals, let's have a look now at the goal-kicking ladder as it stands out at the moment. And Jason Dunster with 9 yesterday has passed the ton. 104, marvellous effort. Tony Lockett, goalless yesterday, 85. Steve Kernahan, 9 to move up to 60, surging ahead of Gary Ablett, who spent time at both ends of the ground yesterday. John Longmire, a day off. Danny Delray booted 3. He is on 43. And Richard Osborne is on 42. We've got a couple of games still to come. One in round 16 and a State of Origin match. Quickly, gentlemen, and Bob, that means probably in one word or less, your prediction...
Fitzroy today. Sandy, there you go.
Thank you. Fitzroy, Sydney. Pete?
Ruffy, Swans.
I'll go the Roys, just.
I'm going for the Swans.
I'm going for Fitzroy, Sandy.
That's interesting, right. Bob, State of Origin, you had a question, did you not?
I wondered actually who's running the State of Origin run. Is it the ANFC, the NFC, or who actually controls football on the state level?
SPC?
I don't know.
Is there anybody?
CIA?
I don't know.
Well, someone
must. I think it's the AFL. Of course, someone must. I think it's the AFL.
Just because...
Well, come on, what about...
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm not sure either.
Well, it just seems, you know, incongruous that Mitchell, who is suspended, can be suddenly declared to play. McGuinness, who didn't play.
But that's got nothing to do with the AFL.
But also, there's a few other things. Wasn't there about Hawthorn not allowing those two fellows to go across and train over in South Australia, yet they let Langford train here? I think there are a lot of things that a controlling body should look at.
What is the bottom line of it all?
Well, I just wonder if I might put in for the job as president of running the interstate football, and to be a chance for that run.
Anything you say, Bob, but there's no money.
I could be your boss then.
As long as you bring your own jumper.
Will they be successful on Tuesday night, Victoria, Bob?
Well, I'm not too sure they're going to get a team together yet. We'll know later on in the afternoon. I know you'll get some sort of a team run, but over there it's a very difficult game, isn't it?
Yes, in fact it was only won last year by a terrific effort by all concerned, and it's the only way we'll win again this year is the same sort of commitment.
But we must all say Victoria on this side should.
We'll have 24 committed
South
players.
Australia will win.
Oh.
Yes, but of course you had that marvellous career there.
I think South Australia
6
will
games
win.
with South Adelaide. We'll take a break.
Okay.